Students want to know.
Okay. So I'd like to take the time.
Guys, we're starting. We're live on YouTube, and he would like your attention. Okay.
I'd like to welcome everybody back to day 2 of the CME conference. Laura Killam and Jessica O'Reilly today will discuss creating connections for learning through YouTube. So take time to welcome them.
Thank you very much. My name is Laura, or if you know me and you're joining live on YouTube, you'll probably know me as Nurse Killam. So if you're looking on social media for me, my first name's kind of Nurse. And I have Jessica O'Reilly, who's circulating in the audience, collecting some feedback about what you guys want to take away from this session. If you are joining us live on YouTube, feel free to comment in the chat, and we will do our best to pay attention to what's going on in the chat. Whether you are live here with us in person or joining us virtually, I encourage you to take out your mobile devices, and you can either follow along loosely or explore the website where our quote-unquote slides are. NurseKillam.com/YouTube. It's a splot point. I don't know if you've heard of that before from Alan Levine. I know him better as CogJob. This approach allows us to also jump around so that we can meet whatever it is that you guys want to get from the presentation of the presentation. So, without further ado, we have the abstract from the conference if you're interested in reading that, and then we have a rough outline for some slides. I think, just looking around, that a lot of you are educators or at least work in instructional design, that kind of thing. So I'd be interested in hearing from the audience, either through talking or from engaging in our Padlet, why you would use videos for teaching. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about videos that you would create, but just videos in general. So you can click the little plus sign at the bottom. I encourage you to put your name in if you feel comfortable, and just give some ideas of why you might use videos. Does anybody feel like they want to talk about why they use videos?
Yeah. For demonstration. So if there's something that I really need to show how to, videos are really kind of a good way to do that.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, so videos are really great for demonstration, especially hands-on things. I would say whether you're in the classroom or you're trying to use it outside of the classroom, sometimes when you can really zoom in on what it is. I work in nursing, so the nurse is trying to do when they're giving an injection or something like that. It's really good for that. To connect learners who are at a distance. Oh, that's a good one. So that would probably be where learners are maybe generating some of those videos. I don't know if you're generating some of those videos, but it really helps to create connections, which is actually where the inspiration for the title of this presentation came from, creating connections through learning with YouTube, to promote, to model and prompt. Okay, is that for like assignments, or?
Could be.
It could be.
Scaffold the learning.
Okay, we've got some really great ideas coming in here. Reinforcing learning, repetition, very good. So if you have some of those key points from whatever your lecture is that you're doing, and you want to reinforce those with students, if they can watch it after class, something like that, that's a really good idea. A lot of these things are sort of leading to actually creating videos. So I think I am going to skip to the next slide. Feel free to keep adding to that Padlet, because anyone can visit it at any time, and they can add and they can explore the ideas that are there. So if we're talking about why we might want to make our own videos, well, if you make the video, then you're in full control over what content you're giving your students. So I don't know if you've ever tried searching YouTube for like exactly what you want to teach in your classroom. Sometimes I would argue that it's actually faster and easier to make your own videos because of all of the differences in terms of content and the different deliveries of information. So you have the ability to customize videos. I pulled this tweet from someone who I don't know, who was engaging in an extend activity from eCampusOntario, and she was talking about how she used the videos so that they could review material. Oftentimes, like, how many of you guys have assignments in your class? I would say probably everybody, right? Okay. How many times do you get asked the same question? Like 1,000,000 times, right? 10, you don't have enough fingers for that, right? If you can put together a video that answers the frequently asked questions or that explains that assignment, students who are not comfortable coming to you for questions, or who are asking those questions at midnight, the night that the assignment is due, those kinds of things, they can go back to that and then they have access to those frequently asked questions or those assignment instructions. That's a very good use of YouTube that actually I would say helps you get better quality assignments in the end.
And Laura, that speaks to one of the responses to our low-tech prompt. How has YouTube changed your in-class teaching practice? So can you expand maybe on that particular question beyond
how has YouTube changed my practice?
Your in-class.
My in-class practice. Okay, I don't like showing videos in class a lot unless it's like really important, and then usually I don't show my own videos in class. But sometimes it helps with the flipping of the classroom. So I would offer students the option of reading something or watching a video, whether it's my video or somebody else's video, and that sometimes helps them come more prepared. The frequently asked questions is a very big thing that I've used. In fact, in the last minute before an assignment was due, I bugged Jess and she pretended to be my student, and she had the assignment instructions in front of her and she asked me questions about the assignment, and that really helped students get clear on what the assignment was. So I don't use them in class as much as I use them to augment what happens in class, because since I'm in the class, I'd rather be more interactive in the moment, spend more time on hands-on activities and less time on telling students the stand in front and lecture type of thing. However, at times when the videos cover similar content to what I am teaching in class, I find that the fact that there's a video with sort of the Coles Notes version of something that we might be talking about in class, students don't feel as much pressure to write down all their notes. So it takes some of that anxiety away from some of them, so that then they can focus on what I'm saying. And I record my lectures as well. Now those recordings are not on my YouTube channel. Those recordings are housed by Cambrian. And that also allows students to go back. So if you have an option for a virtual classroom, that's a different way that it requires less editing time after the fact, where students don't have to be focused so much on the notes. I find those videos are really long, so I don't know how much people pay attention to the really long videos. Somebody already mentioned connecting with learners. I think that's how you use them, right, Jess?
Absolutely, yeah.
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. One of the prompts actually asks, how do you best engage all diverse learners via YouTube? So I don't know if you want to expand on that first. All diverse learners.
That's a really big question.
It sure is.
I think just the fact that they're accessible and they have closed captions meets the requirements, particularly in Ontario, that we have accessibility standards. Please note that you can edit those closed captions. So there's actually a slide in a presentation that I'm doing for advancing learning. So when I'm talking about methodology, epistemology, ontology, they don't do a very good job with my closed captions. So I go in and I create my own version, I edit the closed captions. So that would be one way to meet the diversity. And then there's just the whole, I don't know if you buy into learning styles or not, but I buy into the idea that people learn in different ways. So I use videos for people who like video, but I don't force everybody to watch the videos because I think that's an unrealistic expectation.
So in my teaching practice, so I'm an instructional developer at Cambrian College, so my primary role is to support faculty, but I also teach, and there's much value in that because I get to bring what I've tried out with an authentic classroom back to my conversations with other faculty. I can open up my course and talk about something real rather than a theory. And the evolution of my online teaching practice has really started to involve more and more video of me. So in the outset, I might give a little blurb, a text-based blurb about Jess O'Reilly, maybe throw a picture into a PowerPoint presentation. But I started wondering, are my students seeing me as a human or just, an avatar on a Moodle page? And what would happen if I try to humanize myself in this course? So then I'd create an introductory video. Hey, I'm Jess, I like indie music and bike rides, and I live in Sudbury, yada, yada, yada. And that really opened up some channels for communication. It was a positive experience and honestly took me 5 minutes. It's simple iPhone video, just rigged up on my desktop, straight to YouTube, check the captions, pull it into Moodle. The more I did it, the faster I would get at that type of process. So I really started encouraging Cambrian faculty to, at a minimum, if they're teaching a fully online course, just do a 5-minute video introduction. And the beauty is my department can help them with that if they're not comfortable. But my practice has evolved even further in that I actually incorporate weekly video check-ins. So at the beginning of each week, I'll send my students an email that contains a list of, here's what we're tackling this week. Boom, 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 very linear, pragmatic, slightly behaviorist, but my students respond to it, so I go with it. And then on Friday, I say, okay, hello, it's me in a video. Just a reminder, you're still responsible for all that stuff I told you about on Monday. You have until Sunday to finish it. I got this question, here's some clarification. Have a great weekend. Like Merry Christmas, whatever it may be, and then away they go. And I found that that opened up some more communication. I'd post my videos directly within a text-based forum so that if students wanted to reply, they could reply publicly so that all students could see. So further questions or clarification. And what I found was some students were actually more willing to meet with me in person because of these videos. I had a student tell me last semester that she wouldn't have met with me in person if she didn't know what I looked like, and then came to campus and found my office and kind of hung out outside of it and overheard a conversation I was having with someone else, and I seemed like a nice person, so then she emailed to book the meeting. So let's go on in. So imagine how that would have played out if I had just been the faceless avatar in the Moodle shop. I wouldn't have met with that student. And that meeting was important. It was about a very major paper that she was really confused about. I reined it back in and she was successful. Video also has prompted my students to think, oh, Jess is kind of techie. I bet you she could video conference with me without too much to do. So that's led to Google Hangouts, FaceTime, link opportunities. And again, if my shell looked very text heavy, I wonder if they would have considered that an option for us. And so I'm meeting face-to-face. I had a student say, you're the first Cambrian College faculty I've met. She's in North Bay, I'm in Sudbury. She's doing her program fully online. Hadn't had that face-to-face interaction. That video really can mediate, I think. So I'm obviously a huge fan for that reason in my online practice. And I mean, if you look at most MOOCs, they really do lean on video to bridge that disconnect, that, the paraverbals, non-verbal communication really brings to an interaction that text just can't provide.
And I want to highlight something that she said. So if you look at some of my videos, I've been doing this for a long time, and depending on the purpose of my video, there's a lot of editing involved. But I think when you're using it for the purpose of connecting with students, you don't have to be that techie. It makes you look techie, but some of the videos that I do, like the video that I'm talking about that I did with Jess, there wasn't a lot of tech layered on top of it. So it can be as simple as YouTube makes it really easy. Shooting a video, putting it up on YouTube. You can decide if you want the world to see it, you know, if you want to be open about it and spread your message further, or if you just want it to be only people with that link see it, so then it's more likely that only your students are going to see it, so you have that kind of control over things. But if you're into open education, which I'm hearing a lot of people around here at this innovation conference are, you can also use YouTube to spread your message, whether your message is about what you're teaching, whether your message is the education, or this guy, I'm not exactly sure if he's a teacher or if he's just a psychologist, but he uses YouTube. He's obviously into this like as a profession kind of thing, but he uses that to spread his message as well, which I would think would make him more approachable if people are looking for someone to talk to like that. So
I have a question about the production process. Do we want to get into that a little bit?
Sure. What about the production process?
What is your production process?
Okay, there are a few slides further, so if we want to get into more details about that, I can get into that. But first, I decide, am I going to script my video? That's better if you're, not comfortable being on camera, or am I going to be on camera? If I'm going to be on camera, I don't like to have a script because then I feel like I need to read my script. I like to treat it more like I'm talking. So there's definitely planning involved either way. What do I want to say? The professional YouTubers, when you build your PLN around YouTube video creation, will suggest practicing in the car, talking to yourself, looking in the mirror. So I do that kind of thing. Sometimes I'm in bed at night and I'm thinking, what do I want to say there? So there's the planning piece. If it's a scripted video, it's more like kind of writing an essay, that planning, and if it's a bullet point, then it's more of that sort of thought process. Almost the same as if I'm preparing for a class. Then there's the shooting. That's fairly straightforward. If you're on camera, I have a very small area that I do my shooting in, or if you're screen captured, then I'll have slides ready. So there's the shooting phase, then there's the editing. The editing takes a lot longer than the shooting, depending on what it is that you're doing. If you're just doing a hi, my name is Jess, welcome to my course, there's probably a lot less editing involved than if I'm trying to make a video to spread the education, where I then need to keep people's attention. So I always plan my videos to be between 3 and 5 minutes. So that's not a lot of content necessarily, but then I try and have, an overlay of some words and that kind of thing. So that's why my editing takes longer. You don't have to go big on the editing. You can start wherever you're comfortable. I started with screen capture. I've only been actually in person on very few videos. My biggest tip for when you're recording, and I learned this at the beginning, don't speak too fast. I had some comments about you're speaking too fast in some of the videos, and sound interesting. If you sound bored, people aren't going to watch your video. So I practice sounding interesting, particularly when my face isn't on camera. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, for sure. The only piece I would add, so when faculty come to me and they've never created a video, I often do encourage them to go buy a script, because that's something that they can lean on as a bit of a crutch. And then you can also copy and paste that script right into the YouTube closed captions, so there's some efficiencies to be gained there. But I absolutely agree that it takes away some of that authenticity and spontaneity that comes with just, talking to a lens and pretending it's a live audience. Yeah.
So, a quick question. Do you ask your students to create their introductory videos? Because I've done that, and not in every course I teach, but in a few of the courses that I've taught, I've actually had students create their own 2 or 3 minute video. Some of them will just, sort of talk into their cell phone, and others will actually do full-on editing. But I also am lucky in that all of my students are masters in ed tech. So that lets them fly if they want to in terms of that. But I'm wondering, have you thought, or have you actually been able to use this as a way to get your students to introduce themselves to everyone in the class, especially online?
In my personal
I teach mostly face-to-face, so I'm going to let Jess take that.
So I try to go with a universal design for learning approach. I'll put the video introduction out there and then encourage them to introduce themselves in any way that they're most comfortable. But I do try to say, like, let's get beyond the text if possible. Please consider sharing photos, drawings, videos, and I just open it up. Like, create a PowerPoint about yourself, an infographic, anything goes. And so of my, let's say, class of 40, typically 10% would go video route. But some of them go with animated video and they get super creative, right? I also had an exercise where, because I was teaching brand new first semester students at Cambrian, I walked them through how to create an avatar for their Moodle shell and then introduce themselves through their avatar. So it was image-based, not video, but like having some sort of media to anchor the introduction to makes it a lot more interesting. And what I found, especially with the student-generated videos, was it prompted a whole lot of discussion from the class. So all of a sudden other students are coming in, oh, I've got 2 cats too, and you know, and they're meeting each other online, and they're doing this whole program online. So how lovely that they're making those connections with one another in the first week, first activity, right away. So I'm not at a place yet where I'm telling my students, you must create video, because I don't want it to become a barrier or a stressor when it's meant to be just a social, like, let's create some social presence in this course activity. I'd love to get there. I also, because I support other faculty, Cambrian had a work stoppage this past academic year and we had a time crunch on our hands. So I had many faculty who often would not consider video coming in looking to buy back time. So rather than having each student present live within the course, could they have that presentation recorded, and then we'd have that class time for, you know, richer group discussion, and that became an option. Different experience for the students to present to a camera lens than to their peers. Many though said, wow, I get such stage fright in front of my class, but this, we could stop. If it was really off the rails, we could hit reset, try it again. And so again, that really reduced that cognitive load. I'm starting to encourage faculty to consider video or live delivery as an option. Let the students pick. Unless your learning outcome is really geared to public speaking 101 and performing in front of a live audience, why put that barrier in front of some students who simply cannot perform under those conditions? So that's become, like, talking about, you know, YouTube for all learners. That's definitely a tie-in as well.
Can I ask you to take just a couple steps this way for our live audience?
Sorry, live audience.
That's okay. You were fine just a couple steps over. But this is Jess. Thank you. So I see lots of great ideas coming in. And what you said actually reminds me of what a colleague of mine is doing now. Again, we teach nursing in person, but students in her course have something called scenario testing. And in order to get bonus marks on scenario testing, they have to, or they can earn a badge by creating, before the scenario test option is, basically what they're going to be scenario tested on. So students who opt to do that, now this is layering gamification on top of students making video. They would create this video in partnership with her department. So the tech side, the tech barriers are sort of removed a little bit there because we have a professional person that does their video and can help with some of the editing pieces. They produce this video, they get a badge, and then not only are they producing a resource that the rest of the class gets to use to study for scenario testing, they're getting a little bit of bonus marks for getting that badge, and so it gives them some builds up confidence. And so we're in essence tricking them into studying for scenario testing using that approach. Yeah, and I see someone saying that it can be easier sometimes to do a video than to do a big document with a bunch of screenshots. Yeah. I definitely agree. I do want to comment though that it's important when you're making videos that you consider that you only post what you're allowed to post, okay? So YouTube takes copyright seriously, as I think they should. So, I mean, there's lots of good options in terms of images, places that you can get images, but just make sure that whatever you're posting on YouTube is actually something that you can post, because if you get caught more than once, they have a 3-strike system. If you break their community guidelines, that means if you're really mean to everybody, and like let's say you've got some not racially okay videos, if you get community guidelines strikes or if you get copyright strikes, they will take your videos down. They will take away your ability to post videos. Now, I don't think any of us are going to do that, but it's something that when I became engaged and took video creation seriously as a hobby, I became much more familiar with copyright law, because I didn't want to have my stuff taken down after I put all that effort into creating something, right? So don't just use Google image search and grab random pictures off of somewhere. I recommend Pixabay. I think we have some links in here. There's lots of Creative Commons things that you can use. Pixabay is probably my most popular option. I also pay for some images, but as I'm getting more and more familiar with Creative Commons, I am probably going to stop paying for images at some point pretty soon, because there's lots of good free options out there. And I think there's a wonderful community that you can explore for those. Okay, and if you have suggestions, that's why I've got Padlets, and now that I've had 3 Padlets, I've reached my limit for the free Padlets. So that's all the Padlets that you're going to see in the slides. Take it away, Jess.
Sure. So in my instructional design role, I often grab pre-existing YouTube content that generous YouTubers like Laura and perhaps yourselves create, and I pull them into courses. So there's a couple tools that are relatively new that I'm really keen on that I'd like to share with you. One is H5g Interactive. Has anyone heard of H5g? See a couple nods. So H5g content is HTML5 enabled. That means it's going to work on a phone, work on a tablet, work on a laptop, which can be a barrier when you talk about video. Like, how many times have you tried to watch something on your phone and it says, oh, flash, sorry, you're not watching it today. So, thanks, you're kind of bogarting this. I didn't want to I'll stay back here. That's good. So H5g Interactive video is one content type of about 30 that are available on this open free platform. And developers are donating their time to make it better and better. So essentially what you can do is take a video, pull it into an LMS, a WordPress site, a Drupal website, and then start layering all kinds of stuff on top of that. So that stuff could be text, images, questions, and so what it does is it turns the passive viewing experience into a bit more of an active learning experience that ties directly to your course content, which is fantastic. The nice thing about this tool is it's fairly easy to use. They keep building it out, so the different question types are changing. This is a video that a student actually created. Any nurses in the room other than Laura? So the nurses have a standard exam that they all must write to as an entry into practice. And this student created a how to study video. So she did the whole presentation in PowerPoint, rendered it as an MP4 file. I helped her get it onto YouTube and then into our LMS. And then she created a bunch of questions. So all those little dots are little knowledge checking questions. So you've got the prompt, some potential answers. You can actually have customized feedback. Some faculty get super mean, and if the student answers incorrectly, it reverts them right back to where the question was answered earlier in the video, and they're forced to watch it through. So there's a lot of robust features that can turn this into even a formative assessment. You can use completing the video activity as, say, a quiz within the course. So this is something that I'm really trying to champion and get off the ground at my institution. This is fantastic.
I'm one of those mean educators, so I badge it on top of that, so if they complete the video, they get a badge, but I've used it for APA, for example, and they have to answer, they're easy questions, but if they answer it wrong, then it kicks them back to where the answer is. They have to listen to that answer, and then they have to try and answer that same question again.
Yeah.
So
all kinds of opportunities to force them to learn something. The other piece is the captions from YouTube can pull in. So H5g has had a little bit of a challenge keeping up with YouTube's API. So as YouTube updates, H5g has to update. And there's this lockstep that has to happen. So you can close caption these kinds of videos, but they can't be the automatically generated closed captions at this time, which is fine, because we shouldn't be using those. They're full of spelling mistakes. There's no grammatical mechanics. So as long as you go in and edit the auto-generated YouTube captions, they'll work, which is fabulous. We're getting short on time and we want to open it up for some QA. So the last tool that I'll promote is this Goanimate, which has just been rebranded as Beyond, which I find is a bit of a lame title, but the tool's remaining the same. They had to update because Flash is being phased out, so they've totally redeveloped their platform. But if you're not someone who's comfortable having your face on the internet, fair. What you can do is actually create a little animated avatar of yourself, or anybody. It doesn't have to look like you. And so this is a tool that I'll promote with faculty, or I want to do that introduction. It's not a screen capture video that I'm talking about here, but I really don't want to be in front of the camera. So this is a tool that I can use to create video in an animated, kind of fun, kitschy, edutainment format. The tool includes whiteboard, interactive, it almost looks like an infographic but in a video format, as well as this kind of style. And then sometimes what I'll do is layer H5p on top of that. So I've been working with the two tools in combination for quite some time, and it can lead to some pretty powerful learning objects. Pretty big production time spent in a tool like this, because you're really micro fine-tuning every little element on the slide. So I would only really recommend it for something like, say, an intro video that's short. You can use it in multiple courses or maybe across multiple semesters. You're not going to do your entire semester's worth of delivery through this tool. It would just be too time intensive. But it's a great eye catcher, and it impresses students. Wow, you can animate stuff? That's amazing. Oh, I'm amazing. It's not that hard, actually.
So what are we interested in talking about? Yes.
I've given students feedback using Audacity.
Mm-hmm.
So, because they have an assignment, and I was trying to give them some feedback. They had an online personal learning journal, and I wanted to give them feedback. And I was trying to think about how to do it best. And I could give them a checklist, yes, you met all these requirements, but it seemed, like you say, more personal for me just to converse to them and then send them the audio file.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't expect that from me.
Yeah.
And so one student said they opened up the file while they were sitting in a classroom.
And now you're talking.
My voice is talking to me. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
So it would be good to give them a warning.
For sure.
I did say audio file, but they didn't.
And that kind of rich feedback, we know, is so integral to the learning process.
Yeah, I think they liked it.
There are tools that allow you to screen capture. Screencast-O-Matic is actually something web-based that you can access for free with a watermark. So you could do that kind of audio feedback, but highlight the sentence, show them their assignment. So that's maybe a way to take the audio into video. Not that I'm saying that audio is in and of itself a great strategy, but at least then they'd see the video play, right? So they might not launch it in the middle of a lecture.
With the video, they would see that I actually did look at it.
Yeah. Proof that you spent time working. Yeah, fair enough.
Yes, Jenny.
What kind of audio solutions are you using? Because audio is so critical, right? Maybe even more so than visual if it's just you talking.
For sure.
Audio solutions, that doesn't sound to me, are you talking about editing or actually capturing?
Well, like capturing. Like how are you capturing good quality audio?
So many years ago, my husband bought me a Yeti. It's an expensive microphone. Yeah, if you have a Yeti, that's great. But I forget what the name of it is. Our audio guy at Cambrian recommends a $20 clip-on mic.
Mm-hmm. It plugs right into any iOS device. $20 little just lapel microphone, and it really does clean up the sound. The one that he uses, I'm sure there are many on the market, but this particular version was inexpensive and actually comes with an app so that you can do your audio edits right within that application and then render the video as a complete package. And then there's all these sneaky, ooh, if you want the extra nice sounding audio, you could get the $6.99 package deal. So they try to claw the price up. For me, the room is key. I used to work at a hospital, and so the overhead sounds were non-stop, you know, announcing different codes and things happening. It's a very frustrating environment to try to record in. You can't clean up a poor audio track. Really, sometimes it gets off the rails really quick. The more you try to edit a poor track, it just starts sounding worse. So my best advice to you would be, get yourself in a non-echoey room. Make sure that it's quiet. Do a little check before you go with the full recording. And if you can start with a good foundation, there's less edits to do overall. But we're working with the YouTube generation. I find students are fairly forgiving when it comes to audio video. If it's a bit of a shaky capture, they'll forgive you that. Not for lengthy videos. Their patience runs thin after about 2-3 minutes. But if you're recording quickly, there's nothing wrong with a simple iPhone or iPad as long as the environment is right.
I will give you a tip. So I record in my basement. It's dark and I'm beside the furnace, but there's a fridge very close to my desk. I unplug the fridge and I turn off my furnace and I turn off any fans in the room before I do any recordings. Then I also use, like if I'm using Camtasia, I use the automatic function in there, or if I'm using Adobe Premiere, then I put it into the other Adobe program that's linked to it, and I remove all the background noise first before I start cutting up the audio, because if you start cutting up the audio, depending on your program, then you have to do more work. So 1, try and reduce your background noise. 2, try and edit it out. And then 3, this would be an instance where maybe I'll use a little bit of music to hide it. Yeah.
Audacity is a totally free audio editing program, so if you're not aware of it, that's a great option. Low cost, the tools in there are more than enough to do basic edit functions, and there's wicked YouTube videos out there to walk you through the process. So if we're saying edit out the background noise and you're like, what? YouTube can absolutely help with that, because you just sort of follow along, right? Power of video.
Anything else? I mean, feel free to connect with us later or explore this. For those of you interested in open education at BC Festival of Learning, we're doing a more open, focused thing. I'm not actually going, but I'm going to be presenting virtually. Terry Green is presenting virtually too, right?
Yep, today.
So,
yep.
I mean, the video offers us a lot of opportunities, and you know, practicing at conferences is good. If you're considering using video in some way with your students and you want some tips, feel free to talk to me. If you're considering using video also as a hobby, kind of like I am, please let me know. Or if you are a YouTuber, like I have 2 identities, the educator and the YouTuber identities, please feel free to connect with me. There's a book by Tim Schmoyer that I recommend, and I recommend following him on YouTube as well, and Nick Nimmin. They're like professional sort of, I'm going to help you build your YouTube channel people. I don't take everything that they say because my goals aren't the same as theirs, but they do have really great tips there in terms of trying to make your videos engaging for students and also being able to collaborate across institutions so that I don't have to create the same material that you're creating if we're delivering to the same class. Yes?
Just a little comment from the stuff that I want to do in the future. If you want, a lot of times at this level we record videos that are a lot like our lectures, which tend to be a little bit boring. I'm not saying you do. I'm saying in general, if you look at academic videos, they tend to be a little bit drier. If you want to know how to reach even university level kids, watch videos geared towards 10 and 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
That have cool voiceovers and cool animations that are put in at key spots that are not throughout. Because whenever I watch those videos with my 12-year-old daughter, I say that's how I want to connect with my students who are, 19 through 40, but they want the same type of engagement. And Laura, I know I've seen some of your videos, and you have a lot of those points too. So
they're less boring as you get to the more recent ones.
I'm sure they are, but honestly, for me, watching videos targeted towards grade 7s and grade 8s is sort of the area that I want to try to hit, and I know my students will like that as well.
And if you can't sit through your own video, that's a bad sign, right? Yeah, so you're right. Watch, and even outside of your discipline, watch some of the techniques that professional YouTubers use to keep audience retention. And when you get into it at some point, YouTube actually gives you analytics. So you can see where your people stop paying attention in your video. So the next time, you're like, you know what, when I start talking about this, or when I start rambling, people stop watching my videos. Those people are your students. They're not getting your entire message, right? So if you can do something like Erin's talking about to make it more engaging, you're going to be able to get your message, whatever message that is, across more effectively to your students. Because let's face it, they're going to multitask, right? If you're not interesting.
Have either of you ever done like a YouTube live hangout? Have you ever done that?
I wanted to, but I was told not to.
She's going to.
I'm going to be using Virtually Connecting in between at the Advancing Learning Conference. I'm going to be possibly using Google Hangouts to live stream to BC Festival of Learning. I tried it very quickly with an online cohort at one point. I wanted to, but was told to wait, and I don't really want to get into the context around that. But it's an interesting possibility. The only problem with YouTube, maybe they can't tell, but there's a lag. So I just did that. They're not going to see that for like 5 seconds. And so it creates a little bit of a delay. So, and you have to sort of pay attention to the chat. I think there's only like 4 people watching and nobody's commenting. So it is what it is, right? But the other thing is, it makes it available later. And it's not a lot of work, right?
I've actually been really impressed with YouTube's closed captioning. I think it used to be worse than it is.
Oh, yeah.
But I only have to go in there, yet I have to add in the punctuation. But generally it was pretty good. There was only a few things if you're using terminology, discipline specific, it may not get it. But
It's very impressive.
Because at first Vimeo, I was frustrated with that. Yeah, like you see, right? Genogram, maybe it might not know what that is or something like that. But especially biomedical terminology. But the strategies for uploading a script was like way too complex. If you just let the
just start there and fix it up, right?
And you can edit it super easy. And if you have a script that you read, copy paste your script in, let it auto do the timings, and then just touch it up, right?
Yeah.
That makes the captioning easier if you have a script.
The tech is improving, and now there's competition because you've got YouTube, Vimeo, Stream, the Microsoft product, and they're all trying to keep up with one another when it comes to this very important AOTA compliance piece, which is the closed captioning.
Yeah, I don't think Vimeo has the auto thing in right now. No, you have to go to third party.
Working.
I was just going to mention that Camtasia does that. If you're doing your screen captures and you throw in, like if you already have your notes within PowerPoint and do it that way, it'll automatically put them in as generally open caption, so you can't hide it.
Yeah.
But it's there and it's not any extra steps.
Yeah.
Right. I used to use that, and people liked that when it was on the video, but then I moved towards more using the YouTube version. I just found it, and maybe it depends on your workflow process, but I just found it a little bit easier to edit it after the fact, especially because I could also edit it if somebody pointed out that there was like a spelling mistake or something somewhere. Whereas if you do it in Camtasia and you make a mistake, that's the other thing. Once your video's up, like you have to delete that video and re-edit and put it up if you want to fix anything.
When H5g Captions broke for a short time when YouTube had updated its last API, the only way for me to close caption videos in our LMS that were hosted through YouTube or to like burn them in via Camtasia and bring it. But then the complaint is always, well, it's junking up my video. It's taking up too much real estate. I don't like the aesthetic. So it's nice that we've got that option back to toggle them on or off. Because not everyone appreciates captions. I'm the type, I put them on always. Like my Netflix at home, I've got the CCs. My husband finds that irritating, but he can live with it. I would never say that to a student.
But, okay, so keep in mind, if you're doing PowerPoint or a screen capture type of thing, that you want to leave space for those closed captions on your slides, because you don't want to cover up any important information. So that's just an aside.
Got a minute left, folks.
And Adobe Captivate too, if you've got if you're doing an interactive video like that you're exporting as a SCORM package, you can use the captioning in there. But if you're making a video with Adobe Captivate, when you put the closed caption in, it doesn't translate to YouTube, and then just pull it up and then do it in YouTube. So
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, the things you have
All
to
the
learn.
things, all the things. PowerPoint has a new feature now where if you pull an embedded video into PowerPoint 2016, you can caption that. So yeah, all things to learn, but awesome that these options are available. So we're not eliminating.
And it's a learning process. Sorry, I'm cutting you off, but you learn by trying, right?
Yeah.
My first video wasn't perfect. I'm still not perfect at it. But at some point, you need to give it up, let it go. I could spend forever editing my videos if I wanted to, but it's a hobby. I'm just trying to get the message across. I do the best that I can, and every time I try and get a little bit better. This is my first time live streaming for real with some support here, so now I've got to learn how to do that a little bit better in the future, right? So it's like baby steps.
Yeah. Well, thank you all very much. Laura spent a ton of time on this website, so please peruse through it, share it, comment on it, use it. It's a fantastic